AASHTO T2 and ASTM D75 are the standard practice for sampling aggregates. This practice covers 4 separate procedures for sampling. Sampling from a flowing aggregate stream, sampling from a conveyor belt, sampling from a stockpile, and finally, sampling from roadways, bases, and subbases. Let's begin with sampling from a flowing aggregate stream. First, we want to ensure that we are using a container which will hold the entire sample without overflowing. We now want to obtain 3 increments of approximately equal size. Be sure to obtain these samples from the entire cross-sectional area of the flowing aggregate stream. We will now combine these increments to form our field sample. And our last step is to ensure that our field sample meets or exceeds the sample size requirements for a given aggregate. Here are all the review steps for sampling from a flowing aggregate stream. We will now review how to obtain a sample from a conveyor belt. First, we want to stop the conveyor belt and insert 2 templates that conform to the shape of the belt into the aggregate stream. We want to space the templates so that the material in between will yield a sample of the required mass. Next, we want to carefully scoop from between the templates. Use a dustpan and broom to collect any fines that may remain on the belt. And finally, just as before, we want to take 3 increments. We want to combine these increments to form our field sample, and we want to ensure that our sample equals or exceeds the size for a given aggregate. We will now review stockpiling or manual sampling. This is actually one of the easier methods, as we want to insert a board vertically into the pile and obtain a sample from the top third, middle third, and bottom third of the pile. For fine aggregate, we want to remove the outer layer of the material and obtain our sample from underneath. And we also want to ensure that we obtain at least 5 samples with the appropriate sampling tube. And the final procedure is sampling from a roadway. When sampling from a roadway, we want to be sure to take our sample units randomly. We also want to obtain at least 3 increments from various locations along the construction site. Also, be sure to take all samples from the full depth of the material. And finally, we want to recombine these increments to form our field sample. Also, please take note that when taking these samples, you want to be sure to take care to exclude any underlying materials. You also want to clearly mark each area from which the sample was taken. And finally, sample masses are tentative. Sample masses are predicated upon the type of material, the number of tests, and the type of test that will be performed. In conclusion, there is no significant differences between AASHTO and ASTM.